Remember when life had a warranty? When things like Sunday dinners and payphones actually worked? Well, some folks apparently thought so too. We've unearthed 49 absolutely wild instances where Americans literally tried to return their old way of life. Prepare for peak absurdity and a good hard look at what we've lost. 1. A woman in Oregon allegedly marched into a home improvement store to return what was left of her victory garden. Not the plants, mind you, but bags of used soil and crumpled, empty seed packets. Her complaint was a masterpiece of misplaced blame. She claimed the store, by selling these items, was endorsing 1940s-era promises that she would be saving the country one tomato at a time. Well, her tomatoes were pathetic, worm-eaten failures, and the nation was still facing a severe avocado shortage. She argued this was a clear breach of a patriotic contract and demanded a full refund for the supplies, plus emotional damages for her shattered sense of civic duty. The manager, a man clearly not paid enough for this, just stared at her before asking if she had a receipt for her disillusionment. 2. A gentleman in Pennsylvania attempted to get his money back on a half-eaten apple pie he'd acquired at a church bake sale. This wasn't a culinary complaint. He'd won the pie at a pie supper, an old-fashioned event where bidding on a pie also wins you a date with its baker. The pie, he admitted, was fine. The date, however, was a conversational black hole. He argued to the baffled church ladies that he wasn't just buying a dessert. He was purchasing a packaged social experience. Since the human component of the product was defective, he felt entitled to a refund. They politely explained their return policy didn't cover failed romantic chemistry or lack of personality. 3. Imagine a man walking up to a customer service desk, wheeling in a dining room chair and holding a frozen turkey. He wanted to return the entire concept of the family Sunday dinner. He argued that after years of attempted use, the product simply failed to function as advertised. Instead of civilized bonding and passing mashed potatoes, his family just sat in the same room, silently generating enough screen time to power a small city. He claimed the tradition was defective and wanted to trade it all in for something that actually works: a high-end microwave and a lifetime supply of burritos to be eaten over the sink in blessed silence. 4. This one takes pettiness to a new level. After losing the last slice of pizza to his roommate in a game of rock, paper, scissors, a man reportedly tried to file a formal complaint at the convenience store where the pizza was purchased. He wasn't mad at his roommate, he was mad at the system. He argued that the conflict resolution method was fundamentally flawed. With the conviction of a constitutional lawyer, he explained that his rock should have logically and physically dominated the flimsy paper. He demanded the store either give him a compensatory slice or publicly denounce the game for its inherent logical fallacies. 5. In mid-January, a woman brought a box of pristine Christmas cards and a book of stamps to a big box store, demanding a full refund. The reason? A complete and utter failure in her social circle's performance. She had poured her heart into dozens of handwritten, personalized cards. The return on her emotional investment was 2 half-hearted texts and a group email from her brother-in-law. She claimed the entire tradition was a scam, a conspiracy between Hallmark and the Postal Service. If the product no longer yields the intended result, a reciprocal sense of warmth and obligation, then it's defective. She wanted her money back for the cards and for the stamps she wasted. 6. A newlywed couple attempted to return their wedding guest book, slamming it on the counter with theatrical despair. The book wasn't damaged, it was just depressingly empty. Out of 150 guests who enjoyed their open bar, only 12 had bothered to sign. One entry was an illegible scribble from a drunk uncle, and another was a crude doodle that definitely wasn't a heart. The bride argued that they had purchased a keepsake of cherished memories. What they received was, in her words, a hardbound monument to their friend's indifference. They wanted a refund, claiming the book failed to generate the advertised sentimentality. 7. After a trip to the mall's winter wonderland, a furious father marched back, not to complain about the price of the photo package, but to demand a refund for the psychological trauma. He presented the photo as Exhibit A. In it, his 5-year-old son wasn't filled with Christmas joy. He looked like he was being held for ransom by a man who smelled of regret and cheap whiskey. The kid's face was a silent scream. The father argued this wasn't the magical memory he paid for. It was a down payment on future therapy. He wanted his money back for the photo, plus store credit for the kid's inevitable trust issues. 8. A woman tried to return a Monopoly board that looked like it had survived a war zone. The board was ripped, the money was confetti, and the little top hat was missing, likely thrown in a fit of capitalist rage. She claimed the product was falsely advertised as family fun. In reality, it was a 4-hour Cold War that ended with accusations of illegal hotel construction, and her husband flipping the entire table. She insisted the box needed a new warning label. Caution. May cause irreparable emotional damage and reveal that your sweet Aunt Carol is a ruthless slumlord who would foreclose on a puppy. Honestly, she had a point. 9. A man reportedly tried to return an entire piggy bank full of quarters to a corner store, claiming they were a defective product. When the confused cashier asked why, he explained that each coin was supposed to be a token for a specific quantity of joy. 1 arcade game, 1 jawbreaker, 1 phone call to ask for a ride. But now, they were just useless metal discs whose only function was to make your car's cup holder sticky. He wasn't asking for their face value back. He was demanding a refund for the lost potential joy, claiming he wanted store credit for a childhood that no longer exists. 10. An invisible product called customer service. An older woman, after a frustrating experience at a grocery store, tried to get a refund on her entire bill. The food was fine. Her problem was with the self-checkout machine. She described it as a cold, judgmental robot that barked at her for an unexpected item in the bagging area. She told the manager she came from an era where the butcher knew her name and the cashier asked about her family. This new system was a defective service. She wanted her money back not for the groceries, but for the emotional labor she had to perform as an unpaid cashier. She was returning the entire soulless, impersonal experience. 11. A brand new gaming console. A dad in his late 40s brought a pristine PlayStation 5 back to an electronics store a week after Christmas. The reason for the return? It was missing key features. When the baffled teenage employee asked what was wrong, the dad explained it lacked the smell of stale pizza, the sticky floors, and the intense, silent intimidation of a stranger placing a quarter on the screen of a Street Fighter cabinet to claim next. He argued that screaming into a microphone while eating Doritos wasn't a real gaming experience. He was returning it because it failed to replicate the authentic, character-building atmosphere of a 1990s arcade. 12. An amusement park ticket. After riding the park's newest, tallest, and fastest roller coaster, a man went straight to guest services to demand his money back. His complaint wasn't that the ride was too scary, but that it wasn't scary enough. He complained that the high-tech, form-fitting safety harnesses made him feel so secure that the illusion of mortal peril was completely shattered. He nostalgically recounted riding old wooden death traps with a single flimsy lap bar and a prayer. This new ride, he argued, was a case of false advertising. He paid for a near-death experience and instead got a mildly thrilling, perfectly safe commute. 13. A bag of shredded cheese. A college student allegedly tried to return a half-eaten bag of shredded cheese at 2 a.m. His reason? Product failed to satisfy. When the night manager pressed him, the student explained that this cheese was the sad conclusion to a failed midnight snack run. It was a symbol of desperation, eaten straight from the bag while staring into the cold light of the fridge. He argued that a true midnight snack involves an adventure to a 24-hour diner for pancakes. This cheese, he claimed, was a defective substitute for a real memory, and he wanted a refund for his profound disappointment in his life choices. 14. A gallon of milk. A woman attempted to return a carton of milk, not because it was spoiled, but because it failed as a celebratory beverage. She explained to the store manager that she was trying to revive the old tradition of a milk toast for her son's graduation. Instead of champagne, they were supposed to clink glasses of warm milk. The result, she said, was deeply anticlimactic and slightly nauseating. The milk, she argued, was sold as a wholesome product, but failed spectacularly in a party setting. It lacked the necessary festivity, making it unfit for its purpose. She wanted to exchange it for something with more celebratory integrity, like a bottle of sparkling grape juice. 15. A bag of lemons and a box of sugar. A furious mother marched into a supermarket to return the basic ingredients for lemonade. Her reasoning was that the store was complicit in a scam. She had helped her daughter set up a classic lemonade stand, only to have it shut down by a local official for not having a permit. The mother argued that the promise of a simple, educational business venture was a lie. The product, when used as intended for generations, now resulted in fines and public humiliation. She claimed the lemons were therefore defective and wanted a full refund, plus compensation for her daughter's first bitter taste of American bureaucracy. 16. A pair of perfectly good sneakers. An exasperated grandfather tried to return a new pair of Nikes he'd bought for his teenage grandson. There was nothing wrong with the shoes. The problem, he explained, was how they were being used. He bought them hoping his grandson would experience the character-building awkwardness of a real school dance, the nervous shuffling, the sweaty palms. Instead, the kid used the shoes to record a perfectly choreographed 30-second TikTok video. The grandfather argued the shoes had failed to provide an authentic teenage embarrassment experience and were therefore not fit for purpose. He was, in essence, trying to return a product because it was too cool for its own good. 17. A smart doorbell. A man in a suburban neighborhood tried to return his brand new, high-tech doorbell right after New Year's. The device worked flawlessly, sending notifications to his phone and showing him crystal-clear video of passing cars. The problem? During the entire holiday season, not a single group of carolers rang it. He argued to the tech support guy that he bought it to experience a wholesome, festive holiday. Instead, the only people who came to his door were package delivery drivers and a kid selling overpriced wrapping paper. He claimed the product was defective because it failed to attract the one thing it was implicitly purchased for: spontaneous, heartwarming Christmas cheer. 18. A single quarter. A man reportedly walked into the corporate office of a major telecom company and demanded to see the returns department. In his hand, he held a single, tarnished quarter. He explained that he had found one of the last remaining payphones in the city, put his coin in to make a nostalgic call, and the phone ate it without providing a dial tone. He wasn't just asking for his 25 cents back. He was filing a formal complaint for the defective service of a public utility. He claimed the company was responsible for the emotional damage caused by this final, pathetic whimper of a dead technology. The receptionist, bless her heart, probably just offered him a quarter from the petty cash drawer. 19. A modern frozen dinner. A man in his 60s brought an empty, microwaved food tray back to the grocery store and asked for a refund. His complaint wasn't about the taste, but about the quality of the disappointment. He explained that he grew up on TV dinners and bought this one for nostalgia. But the Salisbury steak was made of actual beef, the mashed potatoes were creamy, and the brownie was soft and gooey. He was furious. He argued he was paying for the authentic 1950s experience: a gray meat patty, potato paste, and a dessert with the density of a hockey puck. He was returning the meal for being too good, and therefore inauthentically nostalgic. 20. A ticket to the county fair. A father of 3 marched up to the fair's guest services booth, demanding a full refund on his family's admission. He claimed false advertising. He remembered fairs having real, awe-inspiring freak shows. Bearded ladies, sword swallowers, genuine human oddities. What did he get for his money? A tent where a guy was deep-frying butter on a stick, and a game where you pay $5 to throw a ring at a bottle you have no chance of winning. He argued he had paid for a carnival of wonders, and instead received a mediocre exhibition of bad diets and gambling addiction. The weirdness level, he insisted, was simply unacceptable. 21. A stack of lumber and a box of nails. A dad, filled with wholesome ambitions, tried to return the materials for a treehouse. He had planned to build a classic wobbly fort with his son. But the moment he hammered the first nail into the tree, he was cited by his homeowners association for building an unapproved permanent structure. He argued to the hardware store manager that they were selling a fraudulent American dream. The product, the dream of a DIY treehouse, is now illegal in most of modern suburbia. Therefore, the materials were defective. He insisted they should come with a warning label about zoning laws and nosy neighbors. 22. A full tank of gasoline. This one is a work of art. A man in a vintage convertible drove back to a gas station an hour after filling up and demanded a refund. Not for the car, for the gas. He explained he had intended to go for a classic, carefree joyride. Instead, he got stuck in traffic, stressed about the cost of every wasted drop, and ended up just going around the block. He argued that the product, gasoline, failed to perform its primary function, fueling joy and freedom. He claimed the experience was so miserable that the gas should be considered defective. He wanted to return the entire, unused tank of liquid disappointment. 23. A vintage-style radio. A woman brought a beautiful, retro-looking radio back to an electronics store, insisting it was broken. The employee tested it, and it worked perfectly. "No," the woman explained, "it's the radio that's broken." She elaborated that she bought it to recreate the charming morning ritual of listening to news and music over breakfast. But all she could find on the dial was screaming political pundits, commercials for medications with terrifying side effects, and pop songs on a 45-minute loop. The hardware was fine, but the service it provided, modern radio, was a defective, soul-crushing experience. She wanted to exchange it for a Bluetooth speaker to at least control her own misery. 24. The ingredients for a root beer float. An elderly gentleman attempted to return a perfectly good tub of vanilla ice cream and a 2-liter bottle of root beer. His reasoning was beautifully tragic. He had tried to make his grandkids an old-fashioned root beer float, promising them the magic of a real soda fountain. But the experience, he lamented, felt hollow. There was no long, polished counter, no spinning red stools, no friendly soda jerk to share a joke with. It was just him in his sterile kitchen, with grandkids who were more interested in their iPads. He was returning the items because, without the authentic atmosphere, they failed to create the advertised magic. 25. A woman attempted to return a perfectly good bottle of wine after she tried to commit a heinous social crime, dropping by a friend's house without sending a series of preparatory texts first. Her friend looked at her through the peephole for a solid minute before cracking the door open and asking if everything was okay, as if the woman had just crawled from a plane wreck. She argued to the wine store manager that the product, designed to facilitate spontaneous friendship, had malfunctioned spectacularly. She was returning it on the grounds that it was incompatible with modern society's advanced state of social anxiety. 26. A television. A man tried to return a perfectly functional flat-screen TV after watching a single political debate. His reasoning was flawless in its absurdity. He claimed the TV was sold under the premise that it would display programming, including news and debates. What it actually displayed, he argued, was a high-budget reality show where contestants just shouted over each other. This was not a debate. This was false advertising. He wasn't receiving the service he was promised. He wanted a full refund, arguing the television had failed its civic duty by broadcasting something so far removed from intelligent discourse. 27. A collection plate donation. This one is legendary. An elderly gentleman reportedly contacted his church's administrative office and requested to have his previous Sunday's donation refunded. His reasoning? The quality of the service had declined. He explained that he grew up putting on a suit and tie for church, a sign of respect and occasion. But that morning, he was seated next to a man wearing pajama pants and Crocs. He argued that his donation was an investment in a certain level of decorum and reverence, which had clearly been abandoned. He felt he was paying a premium price for a service that had become a glorified slumber party. 28. 50 empty party favor bags. An exasperated mother attempted to return a bulk package of party supplies after her son's graduation party. She had invited 80 people. She received 25 firm yes RSVPs. 10 people actually showed up. She argued to the store manager that the entire party supply industry is predicated on a lie, that people will actually do what they say they will. Since the concept of an RSVP is functionally dead, the products sold for such events are defective. These bags weren't just bags, they were a monument to the flakiness of modern society, and she wanted her money back for the emotional distress. 29. A brand new smartphone. A man in his late 40s tried to return his new iPhone, claiming it was a gateway to poor life choices. He had downloaded a grocery delivery app with the wholesome, nostalgic idea of recreating the milkman experience. He imagined fresh milk appearing on his doorstep. Instead, at 2 a.m., fueled by the app's insidious convenience, he ordered a single gallon of milk, 3 bags of Cheetos, and a 12-pack of energy drinks. He argued the phone didn't provide the charming convenience he sought. It was a defective tool that amplified his worst impulses. 30. A phone mount for a car dashboard. After a cross-country road trip, a man tried to return the phone mount he'd used for navigation. It worked perfectly, which was exactly the problem. He complained that the GPS was so efficient and accurate that it completely robbed him of the adventure. There were no wrong turns, no discoveries of weird roadside diners, no heated arguments over a crinkled paper map. The device, he argued, had provided a perfectly efficient and soul-crushingly boring experience. He paid for a road trip, and it gave him a commute. He was returning it for being too good at its job. 31. A Sunday newspaper subscription. A man called his local newspaper's circulation department to cancel his subscription and demand a refund for the last 6 months. His complaint was highly specific: the catastrophic decline in the quality of the Sunday comics. He remembered a time when this section was a sprawling, hilarious highlight of his week. Now, he claimed, it was a shrunken, pathetic wasteland of unfunny legacy strips and bizarre new ones nobody asked for. He argued he was paying for a premium entertainment product that was no longer entertaining, and he wanted a prorated refund calculated against the percentage of the paper dedicated to this comedic failure. 32. A single, sad-looking party hat. A dad walked into a party store and placed a single, conical party hat on the counter. He wanted to return it. He explained he had bought a full set for his daughter's 7th birthday, planning a simple, classic party with cake and musical chairs. But then he heard that a classmate's party had a petting zoo and another had a custom-built balloon arch. He was returning the single hat as a symbol of his surrender. The product, a simple birthday party, was no longer a viable option in the hyper-competitive world of modern parenting. He claimed the hat was a relic of an era that no longer exists and was therefore defective. 33. A family-sized pack of hot dogs. A man tried to return them to a grocery store, claiming they were no longer fit for their intended purpose. He had planned a classic, wholesome backyard hot dog eating contest for his son's birthday. But then, he explained, the specter of competitive eating ruined it. The kids weren't having fun, they were comparing their pathetic totals to the 76 hot dogs consumed by professionals on TV. He argued that the product, the humble hot dog, is now defective because it comes with an impossible standard of performance. He wanted a refund because these hot dogs failed to produce good old-fashioned gluttony and instead only generated a sense of inadequacy and shame. 34. A single, half-melted ice cream bar. A frantic mother returned it to an ice cream truck driver, demanding her $3 back. The ice cream itself was fine. The problem was the experience. She explained that the tinny, off-key jingle didn't spark joy in her child. It sparked a debate about whether they could use Venmo. For her, the sound triggered an instinct to lock her doors and check the neighborhood watch page. She argued she was sold a nostalgic treat, but received a mobile source of low-grade anxiety. The product was tainted by the creepy true crime vibe that all ice cream trucks now apparently possess. 35. A computer mouse. After a failed attempt at online holiday shopping, a man brought his perfectly functional mouse back to the electronics store. His complaint was that the product was obsolete for the modern marketplace. He recounted his glory days of Black Friday, a time of physical combat and shopping cart warfare. This new method, sitting at home, refreshing a web page, and losing to a bot in 0.2 seconds, was a soulless digital beatdown. He argued the store was selling him a tool that was unfit for the war zone of e-commerce. He wanted to exchange it for something that could click faster than the speed of light or his money back. 36. A pair of prescription eyeglasses. An office worker attempted to return his new glasses, claiming they were too effective. He explained to the bewildered optician that, in the age of constant screen time, his crisp, clear vision was causing a social problem. During meetings, his direct, unwavering eye contact, a result of his perfect new prescription, was being misinterpreted. Co-workers thought he was either challenging them to a fight or trying to hypnotize them. He argued the glasses failed to account for modern social awkwardness, turning him from a confident professional into an unintentional creep. He wanted to go back to his old, blurry prescription that allowed for a comfortable lack of focus. 37. A pair of roller skates. A woman in her 40s tried to return a brand new pair of skates she'd bought for a nostalgic trip to a local rink. The problem? There were no local rinks left. They had all been replaced by trampoline parks and laser tag arenas. She argued to the sporting goods store manager that they were selling a product whose entire ecosystem had vanished. It was like selling a chariot whip in the age of the automobile. The skates were useless, a relic of a dead social scene. She wanted a full refund, claiming the product was defective due to a catastrophic lack of appropriate venues. 38. A man tried to return a very expensive box of cigars, claiming they failed to produce the advertised effect. He explained he had a grand vision of recreating a classic men's social club. He set up 2 lawn chairs in his garage, put on a dusty smoking jacket, and invited his neighbor over. The neighbor stayed for 5 minutes, complained about the smoke messing with his allergies, and went back inside to watch TikToks. The man argued the cigars were falsely advertised as a key to sophisticated camaraderie, but instead delivered only lonely, asthmatic wheezing in a poorly lit garage. It was a defective lifestyle product. 39. A novelty car antenna topper. A man brought one of those classic bouncy smiley face balls back to an auto parts store. He wanted a refund. The problem wasn't the ball, it was his brand new car. It didn't have a traditional antenna. It had a tiny shark fin-looking nub on the roof with 0 personality and no place for a whimsical accessory. He complained to the manager that the store was selling a product that was incompatible with modern automotive design. He felt cheated out of his right to express himself via a wobbly piece of foam. The product was useless, a victim of streamlined, soulless engineering. 40. A portable charcoal grill. After a single use at a football game, a man tried to return his grill, claiming it was woefully inadequate for modern tailgating. He explained that he showed up ready to grill some burgers and bond with fellow fans. Instead, he found himself parked next to a guy with a fully catered spread, a 70-inch satellite TV, and an air-conditioned party bus. His humble grill, he argued, was not a tool for fun, but a source of public shame. He claimed the product was defective because it couldn't compete in the new tailgating arms race. He wanted to trade it in for, at minimum, a portable pizza oven and a fog machine. 41. A brand new smartboard. A retiring teacher, after being gifted a state-of-the-art interactive display for his final year, tried to have the school district return it. His complaint was that the board was offensively sterile and emotionally vacant. He argued that true education happens amidst the gritty reality of chalk dust and the occasional ear-splitting screech of a nail dragged across slate. How could a teacher properly express frustration without being able to slam an eraser against the board, creating a satisfying, intimidating cloud? The smartboard, he claimed, was a defective teaching tool because it lacked the necessary theatrical and psychological gravitas to truly command a classroom's respect. 42. A single gallon of gasoline in a certified can. A man who had just moved from New Jersey, one of the last full-service states, tried to return the gas he had just pumped himself. He walked into the station's convenience store and explained to the baffled clerk that he was not an employee and should not have to perform the labor. He argued he had paid for a finished product, delivered and ready. By forcing him to operate the pump, the station had provided an incomplete and defective service. He demanded a refund for the gas, plus a small fee for his own labor, calculated at what he imagined a guy named Earl would have made in 1975. 43. A movie ticket stub, or rather, the lack of one. After attending a midnight premiere for a major blockbuster, a fan went to guest services to demand a refund. The movie was great. The problem was the experience. Assigned seating had eliminated the camaraderie of camping out, and his digital QR code simply vanished after being scanned, leaving him with no physical souvenir. He argued he had paid for a sacred cultural event, which should include a tangible artifact of the night. Without a ticket stub to pin to his corkboard, the memory was incomplete. He was returning the experience for failing to provide a keepsake. 44. An enormous, unopened bag of assorted candy bars. A dad tried to return it on November 1st, claiming the product was defective. He explained he'd bought it for the hundreds of trick-or-treaters who used to roam his neighborhood in a chaotic, adventurous horde. But this year, the entire neighborhood had migrated to a trunk-or-treat event in a church parking lot. The candy, he argued, was now useless. Its entire purpose, to be exchanged for the joy of children dressed as ghosts, was gone. It was like buying a lure for a lake with no fish. The candy had failed to attract customers, and he wanted his money back. 45. A digital concert ticket. A woman contacted a ticket vendor's customer support line, demanding a refund for a show she had already attended. Her reasoning was that the product was incomplete. After the concert, her digital ticket, a simple QR code, was no longer accessible in her app. She explained that for decades, a ticket stub was a cherished souvenir, a physical piece of the memory. The digital version, by disappearing, robbed her of this. She argued that she paid not just for entry, but for a full memory package, and the company had failed to deliver the keepsake component of the service. She was essentially demanding a refund for a lack of nostalgia. 46. A brand new public drinking fountain. A city's parks department allegedly tried to return a high-end modern drinking fountain to its manufacturer. The fountain worked perfectly. The problem? No one would drink from it. They watched as people would walk right past it, thirsty, to go buy a $2 bottle of water from a nearby vendor. The department argued that the product, while mechanically sound, was culturally defective. It was designed for a public that no longer trusts it. They claimed it was no longer a utility, but a 500-pound monument to societal paranoia, and they wanted store credit. 47. A high-end vacuum cleaner. A door-to-door salesman looking utterly defeated attempted to return his demonstration model. The vacuum, he insisted, was a marvel of modern engineering. The problem wasn't the product, it was the entire business model it was built for. He explained that in the age of doorbell cameras and universal distrust, no one opens their door anymore. He had spent a week lugging the machine around, only to be met with disembodied voices from a speaker telling him they weren't interested. He argued the vacuum was defective because its primary sales feature, a live demonstration, was now impossible to perform. 48. A family-sized box of ultra-sugary cereal. A father tried to return it, claiming false advertising. He bought it to recreate the sacred ritual of Saturday morning cartoons. But the magic was gone. His kids didn't wake up early and plant themselves in front of the TV. They just watched cartoons on their iPads whenever they wanted, often ignoring the cereal entirely. He argued that the cereal was sold as an essential component of a cherished experience. Since on-demand streaming had killed that experience, the cereal was now just a box of hollow, meaningless calories and failed to deliver on its implicit promise of animated bliss. 49. A gift certificate for ballroom dancing lessons. A newly married man tried to get a refund on the lessons he and his wife had taken for their wedding. They had diligently learned the foxtrot, imagining a moment of grace and elegance for their first dance. But when the moment came, the DJ just played the cha-cha slide. The entire dance floor, including his own grandparents, erupted into a unified step-by-step shuffle, leaving them looking like overdressed weirdos. He argued the lessons were a defective product, teaching them a skill that modern society has deemed completely irrelevant in favor of following simple verbal instructions. So there you have it, a deep dive into the bizarre return policies of America's past. From emotional damage via monopoly to the existential dread of a cashless society, we've seen it all. Now don't just sit there silently judging. Tell us, what tradition do you wish you could return for a full refund? Or, what modern convenience would you pay extra to send back to the manufacturer? Let us know in the comments below, and if you haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more truths stranger than fiction.